Hello and welcome to your Pilates workshop. We are still here in Cocoa Beach, Florida, enjoying the lovely set of the Holiday Inn. You can tell them that's a plug and we can get some extra points for our next stay. Okay, so we are teaching seated forward stretch, open leg rocker, which starts with open leg rocker prep. So I'm going to do the prep and then I'm actually going to do open leg rocker. And then after that is corkscrew and then saw. So I'm going to teach these four because they are part of a shapes series where you're practicing this kind of L sit and twisting of our spine. So this happens right after the Ab 5 series. So you would finish this series here. You would have been coming out of crisscross. Okay, you guys remember crisscross? And then after crisscross, you would roll to sitting up. And this is where you start seated forward stretch. And so seated forward stretch as a position, as a shape, is so fundamental to how you control your body. So think of some of the stretching shapes that we did when we talked about forward fold. And forward fold was me standing and reaching for my toes that way, you know. And so seated forward stretch happens so many places. It's valuable to all of your posture, all of your hips, all of your running, your entire back chain. Remember that back line that we talked about? That is what you are stretching and strengthening in the seated forward stretch exercise. So seated forward stretch gives me a good opportunity to talk to you guys about your feet, because the positioning of your feet, what your feet are doing, is the direct feedback to what's happening in your hips. So you've got to be really aware of that when you're doing any straight leg sitting exercise, okay? And so what that means is, now if I let my feet roll open like this, that means I'm allowing the muscles on the outside of the hips to contract because they're what pull it open. So it's telling me that there's tension in here. And I'm also turning off these inside muscles. Now, these inside muscles we talked about, that's part of your deep, this is part of your perch line. This connects to your scoop. This is your pelvic floor. So engaging these inner thigh muscles are so important. So how do you know that they're on? Step one, your feet are vertical, right? So you've got to pull them to this. You've got to do an internal rotation and pull them to this vertical space. So that's one way you'll know that you're in the right place. The second way you'll know that you're in the right place, well, it has to do with your foot positioning. And we'll get into this more when we get into the footwork series and these types of things. But your foot has edges that are used to being on the ground. So when I place my foot, I'm going to use this right foot here. When I place my right foot on the ground, so you know that under the ball of my feet is touching, okay? Now the other big point is under the ball of your pinky. Now you've got to work for that one because that's not a natural feeling. And then imagine you're walking in the sand. I've been doing a lot of walking in the sand, so I'm looking at my footprint, and you'll see that it's really this outside rim right to your heel that touches. Your arch doesn't ever really touch the floor. The purpose of your arch is to lift and turn on this inside line to align your ankle. So this is your strongest toe, your big toe, but your big toe pushes in and creates an arch, a tent, okay, and that helps your ankle take its right shape, okay? So your ankle shape influences your knee shape, and your knee shape influences your hip shape. You know, I can almost skip the knee, because to be perfectly honest, what happens at your foot will go through your knee, because your knee is just a hinge joint. It doesn't really transfer anything but straight lines, okay? So what happens at your foot, your ankle, which is a complex circular joint, will reflect directly in your hip. So in Pilates, we'll always say that there is a connection from your heels to your glutes. And you're going to find that through this center line. So in this forward stretch exercise, what your work is going to be is to scoop through the middle, okay? And I scoop and I bring my feet to vertical. And then I want you to feel the edges of your feet and press them as if they're on the floor, okay? As you do that action, that's going to see, here's off, As I do that, watch it light everything up. Okay, so to press those legs and press those feet. So imagine you are pushing your feet into the wall in front of you and you're trying to like stand on the wall. So there's got to be a pushing, reaching action. Okay, that's part one. So from there, you scoop yourself in and up through your belly button and you get your head as tall as you can. And through this entire exercise, you're always trying to get as long as you can from your tailbone to the crown of your head. Okay, so this is the setup of seated forward stretch. And you should be scooping and wrapping and lifting, and as if like you could balance a cup of tea on the top of your head. And this position will feel like work. There's no rest position in seated forward stretch. So lift yourself all the way up. Okay, now once you're here, you're going to articulate forward, which means my head is going to curve down and in. Now we talked about the difference between a hinge and an articulation. So when we make a C curve, remember, our head goes towards our knees and our ribs go away from our thighs. So the setup is this, and then I'm going to take my head down, and it's like it's diving forward, and I'm aiming for this spot with the crown of my head. And to do that, I've got to pull my ribs in and up and back and drop them down. So here's my position in seated forward stretch, and my arms, they come out of my shoulder blades and reach as far as I can. Okay? Now, legs are grounded, scooped in. Now to come back up, I pull my belly button in harder, and it's like I'm trying to climb myself up the wall and get more space in the back of your spine. That's what you're doing in seated forward stretch. So you take an inhale in, and then to go forward, I'm going to exhale. I'm going to get this spot, and I'm going to find more breath, and then exhale again. I recommend 3. One more inhale. Exhale again. And then inhale to lift. Okay, seated forward stretch. Okay, so you guys got 5 reps like that. Articulating forward, scoop to stack up. Always be aware of the feet. Don't let the feet go anywhere. Okay. Next, open leg rocker. So once you're finished seated forward stretch, hands onto the mat. Scoot your bum forward a little bit, and then you're bringing your knees in. Now, unlike rolling like a ball, where we brought our heels together, okay, in this one we're going to bring our legs apart. And we're going to set it up, and we're practicing. So you're going to set up with your hands behind your knees, okay, and you're going to start with a nice tall posture. And the first part of open leg rocker is practicing holding this space and getting your legs to straight. Now, to do this, you're going to wrap your sit bones. Imagine a volleyball between your knees and you're trying to squeeze it, okay? But it has space. You're going to squeeze that volleyball in between your knees, and then you're going to push and reach and push that leg to straight. That's going to be work. Pull it back. Toes touch the ground. Heels stay off the floor. So your toes are pointed. Squeeze the volleyball between your thighs and push and reach. Okay, and so you'll do 3 on each leg with that point, trying to hold your knees at the same height. Your leg's going to want to drop like this. So you've got to scoop in and keep them together. So 3 times on each leg like that. And then it's 3 times with both legs at the same time. Pushing and reaching. Pushing and reaching. Okay? This is the prep series. After you finish the prep, do the prep every single time. I still do, even at this age, because there's something, it's the only way you're going to learn how to really find the leg straightness and the wrapping of the hips, okay? So it's a progression. So the progression now, I'm going to grab from the inside of my legs, grab my ankles, and it's that same push and reach, okay? And you're practicing straightening your legs, using your perch and your scoop. Now, 3 times. On the 3rd one, I'm going to hold, and now I'm going to articulate my spine. And once I articulate the spine, I'm going to roll forward, roll back, and keep the legs straight. Forgive me if I make it look easy, because it's really not. Scoop and roll, backwards, forwards, fight to keep the legs straight. So this is called open leg rocker, okay? And you're going to work that one 5 times, because that's your rep number. And what you're going to find is to keep the legs straight on the top of the roll, you're going to have to find your glutes. You're going to learn to squeeze and wrap and press and scoop. And that's such a valuable skill. And there's really very few of the shapes that help you feel it as well as this one. And once you get that feeling, you'll be able to carry it to a lot more exercises. So 5 times you'll do the prep, then you'll do the open leg rocker, okay? And then you're finishing here. So now your next movement is corkscrew. So my legs are gonna stay here and I roll to the floor, ground onto the floor. Now this position you guys know already. Flat spine, sacrum on the ground, Pilates stance with the legs. So corkscrew is a circular exercise, and the work is to keep that volleyball squeezed in between the legs as I wrap around and over. Squeeze, wrap around, and over. And so there's a couple of shapes to corkscrew. So if I just go to here, we call that corkscrew 1. And if I go to there, the rollover, we call that corkscrew 2. So I'll give you guys the choice to play with either one of those. Okay, but corkscrew finishes, and I put myself in the shape, the same shape as a seated forward stretch, but the next exercise is called saw. If I wasn't clear of this in corkscrew, your work is to keep your head, your shoulders, and your arms on the ground with a flat spine, okay? And your spine is going to stay flat and long, but the exercise is about what's happening in between, let's say, the top of your thighs and your hips. And so in corkscrew, you're practicing this wrapping and squeezing action. That strength is what you're trying to improve as you make that circle. Okay, after corkscrew, the last one that we're doing today, this is called saw. And so the name saw comes from the idea that you're like using your pinky toe to saw, your pinky finger to saw off your pinky toe. But it's not really a complex shape as much as it asks you to start to look and use a lot of different things. So it looks like this in its entirety. So I start with my arms out, and I'm lifting my chest just like seated forward stretch. So you know what you got to do with your legs, okay? Now, step 1 is to hold the height, and I'm going to pivot, 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 pivot. Now, as I pivot, this leg's going to want to come off, and so you've got to work to keep it back down. That's the most important thing to remember. Hold the shape in your legs. Your legs will let you know how far your upper body can go. So you're scooping and lifting, grounding your legs, and I'm pivoting. And I'm trying to get my hand on the opposite side of my pinky toe. My feet stay grounded. Now, in the beginning, I want you to take this opposite arm, put it on the floor behind you, and use it to help you push. Because you're going to articulate forward and reach, 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 reach. Then you're going to scoop up and switch to the other side. Okay? Now, on this other side, the actual thing your hand is supposed to do, this backhand, is it should flip and reach away. Okay, so I'm pivoting to the other side. Backhand flips, and it reaches that way as my other arm reaches forward, and I reach, 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 scoop and stack. But I'm giving you guys all of the different ways. I don't care, like it's useful to use like the props in your hands to push and pull, because the real benefit of this skill, the real art of this skill, is being able to pivot in the hips with your scoop and to make this forward fold and ground this opposite hip. Okay, so you can do whatever you need to get yourself forward and work the different shapes of your spine, but the only thing that will keep these hips grounded is your scoop and your grounding from the inside. And that's what's going to really accentuate the length of the stretch and help you improve that skill. Okay, so that would be your last one for today. That saw. After saw, you would roll into swan, which is a totally different shape altogether. So I think we will leave that one for next week. We'll do all of the swan shapes next week. I hope you guys enjoy. Keep practicing. Keep doing your feedback. Be unconventional. Have a great week, guys.